Okay, this is Sandy Berry, the chair of the Cemetery Advisory Committee. And just 1 minute here, I'm going to hold, please. Okay. Welcome tonight to tonight's City-Owned Cemeteries Advisory Committee, April 12th, 5:30 p.m. This was moved from the March timeframe because we didn't have quorum. Let's see. Please note that the meeting is being recorded, and if you have objections to that, you can please probably log out.
Do you have the agenda, Sandy?
Yeah, I did find the agenda.
Good.
Yay, I got it off the cemetery site. All right. I'm going to take an attendance vote right now just to see who we have here for quorum. I'm Sandy Berry, the chair of the Cemetery-Owned Cemetery Committee, and if everybody would go around and introduce themselves.
Carol Kelly, alternate member.
Maney, member.
Augie Sabia, member.
Okay, great. Welcome to tonight's meeting. All right, number one on the agenda, is the March meeting was truncated due to lack of quorum. Review of the quorum guidelines from the City Council. Essentially, it looks like we can only have one member absent at a time is what it looks like to me. Was that anybody else's understanding?
Yes, that was mine as well.
Okay. All right. And I checked with Vicky also. Things come up, things happen. And I just want to run it by folks on the meeting right now. It's probably not in our best interest to wait another month before we hold a meeting. And I would like to propose moving it just to the next week, provided everyone is available.
When you say the next week, can you tell me the date?
Well, whatever the date would be. So for example, we couldn't hold March, but we waited a whole nother month before we held this month's. So my proposal would be to just schedule it the following week.
We have to leave a little bit of time as long as we're doing the hybrid things. Although the IT department and Mike are very quick to get back to us, it has to be posted 48 hours. Can't use the weekend before we meet.
Okay.
So if we're going to do this, we just need to agree, pretty soon and get those little paperwork details, and they're no big deal to do them in a week.
And sometimes the longest duration that kind of holds us up is making sure everybody can make it the following Tuesday, and just kind of look at their schedule. So we do have like a couple of days to play with in terms of that. But I think, does everybody think that that's probably the way to go?
I agree.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea. So I've written it as we'll try to meet on the third Tuesday of the month.
Yes.
In the
Only if we miss the second Tuesday, right?
Right.
Sandy?
Yes.
Sandy, what is Mike doesn't usually, when we go back to meeting in person, Mike is usually not part of that meeting. So the people in the committee just 4 when we're meeting in person?
Yeah.
He's what do you call that? He's not a full member anyway. We can still have one person, in person. We can still have one person absent. It's just that we don't have anybody to host a city meeting. So he's not really counted in that number.
Yeah. I was going to say, as long as it's on Zoom, quite honestly, I mean, I am in Oregon so it does make it more likely that more of us can make it if we, are able to make that effort. No matter where we are. I mean, Augie's in his car.
Yeah. Yes, and yeah, I'm good with meeting at home. I think we can show screens better, we can show diagrams better, all kinds of things like that. So, all
But
right.
we could
So
meet in
Susan,
person and run the Zoom, because I have the impression that that's what the city is hoping, is that we'll do hybrid meetings to make it more accessible. That's my impression.
fine. And so a quorum is 3 out of 4. Is that the
Mhm.
idea?
Yes. And Mike doesn't count as one of those people.
No.
He is the person that hosts the meeting, so we couldn't start the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's see. All right. That
February
was-
minutes?
Yes. And all right, February minutes. Are there any changes to the February minutes?
Yes, I have changes.
Okay, shoot.
So on number 4, I need you to verify this, Sandy. Did you mean was about the DAR grant that you were going to apply for? Did you mean it was going to be written and will go into the June cycle or the December cycle on number 4?
The June cycle is when it starts and it closes in the December.
Okay, okay.
It's kind of like what you do for CPA. You can start writing it once it's, accepted after this cycle, and then it's due in December, isn't it?
A CPA or?
Is CPA due in December also?
No, it's due May. May.
Okay.
So you have less than a month.
Yes, it was Shrab that was December. Sorry about that.
So can you clarify for me what you're talking about that should be changed from the minutes, not what should be going forward or anything else?
I think the minutes are fine in the sense.
Oh, okay, then we're not changing, we're talking about the minutes first then.
That's what we're talking about right now. We're just clarifying certain things. There's certain things that are not correct, but I just wanted to clarify that in the minutes it said the June cycle. I wasn't sure about that, but as you wrote it, Carol, it's fine. It's the June cycle.
Okay.
It's just clarifying that the June cycle goes from June to December.
And Carol, I wasn't sure if she was referring to CPA or the
Right.
DAR.
But as far as I'm concerned, it's only about whether we need to talk about changing the minutes, but we're not changing the minutes. We're fine. Okay.
I'm just asking, I just wanted to make sure I understood before, and it's about the DAR. So on number 6, there do have to be some changes here because it's written as if there was some sort of agreement of a spreadsheet for all the hours of volunteers in DPW. Discussion, and there was no agreement to that. And really, to be honest with you, I think the person managing the grant is the one who needs to take responsibility for logging in all of the volunteer hours. And because I've sent in a request to the Massachusetts Historic Commission for an example of last year's grant from anybody, doesn't matter to whom, from whom, so they can show me how they accept the logging in of volunteer hours. And I really appreciate, Carol, the fact that you wanted to kind of maintain a list, but I'm sure we have tons of things to ask you to help us with. But I just think that the manager of the group should kind of watch that, and so they're responsible, and no one else has to take responsibility for logging in the hours, for volunteers. And we'll have an example from the Massachusetts Historic Commission, exactly how one does log in the hours, what they accept, and what they've approved in the past. So
Well,
I think,
I just have a question. Is this about changing the minutes? Or is
Wait
it
a minute.
about discussing this and making new decisions?
Chris, it sounds like you're going into a solution right now.
So let me.
That's okay.
It says we need to keep records of in-kind work to document. We can keep a spreadsheet for all the hours, which the value is $37. It's actually $34.97. but it's just, it's written as if we came to some agreement here, and that, none of that was really agreed upon. So I guess I would just like to take that out. And the only thing I'd like to leave in
But-
is, go ahead.
It's what was said, I believe. And that's what the point of the minutes is. Yeah.
It's what you said, you know, should we? I guess should we have an Excel sheet, because we didn't agree upon doing this sheet. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because it says here, we spreadsheet for all the hours at the approximate value of $37 per hour needs to be equal to 405 volunteer hours. Those numbers are all wrong.
But those were the numbers that were said in the minutes at the time.
No, they weren't. If you go back, I had to listen to the whole recording yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, so the numbers are wrong.
All right, then we do need to amend them. That's fine. All right. So what number is that? And can we just talk about amending the recording so that just about the minutes, not solving the problem?
Yes.
You're right. I shouldn't have gone into that. That we can talk on about number 10.
But so first give me the number you're talking about and the correct numbers that should have been in there.
So instead of 37, dollars per hour, it's $34.97.
34.90.
34.97.
Okay.
And instead of 405, volunteer DPW hours, it's only volunteer hours. And it's
I'm sorry, Chris, I'm having trouble understanding you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
It's a little better, but there's like a clunky noise behind you. I don't know what it is.
I don't know, Carol. So instead of 405
Got it.
DPW hours,
Yep, thank you.
it's volunteer hours, and it's a 276.7. It's just an estimate.
0.7 estimated. Okay. All right, I'll take care of changing those before I submit it to the,
That's great. And then the other issue is that when this is all the way looking at number 8. And on number 8, it's the last paragraph just before 10. When you start off, we used Langford Street, cemetery as an example. You see that? So I'm pretty sure, especially because I had just had to listen to the whole recording again, I'm pretty sure in your sentence where it says it is possible to propose an amendment and get some language down to, or change it from an ordinance rather than a regulation, it was just the opposite. Mike had said maybe we could do a DPW regulation and exchange an ordinance for a DPW regulation. And then he said, oh, you mean for the DPW would be responsible for this? And he said, yes.
got it.
Okay. And then the last thing in number 12 says that the committee agreed that before grants are submitted, they should be reviewed by the entire committee. That did not happen. There was a discussion, but there was no agreement, there was no proposal, and there was on this particular discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you've just listened to the tape.
I did. Everybody,
Okay, excellent.
it's an hour. And
In that case, I'm willing to accept that this is all correct now. Anybody else want to jump in?
well, Carol, you had suggested to me to do that because I'd asked you about this before in the last, when no one showed up at the other meeting because of other commitments. And so I did listen to it as you suggested, and to verify that there wasn't a vote, on number 12 in particular.
Yes, we did hear that. Good. Thank you very much.
All right, I'll take care of changing those minutes before I submit them.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's bring number 12 into other business at the end so that we can have a vote on that, because it is something that we wanted and we neglected to take a vote on that. Thank you
Okay,
for
review of
pointing that out.
all grants by full committee. I'll just write a note in there, so when we get to it, it'll be there, okay? All right. So now we're on number 3.
Okay, and number 3. Good. Did we have a motion to accept the minutes, by the way, after all that?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as abridged with Chris's input.
Exactly. And I'll second those.
And then we need a
All
vote.
in favor?
Aye.
Chris, are you opposed?
I said aye, Sandy, aye.
Yeah, okay, that's great. You know what? There is this. I think that you can take that as a vote to accept the minutes. It is really hard to hear you, Chris, and I'm just wondering if you could come up maybe with ideas on how to fix that possibly. Only because Zoom, it's really important to get all kinds of things right and details. And as if I don't hear you or just like Carol just did, or Augie wants to, if we don't hear you or understand you, we'll have to ask you to repeat, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, perfect. All right, here we go. Number 3. All right. List of state community required items that need to be on cemetery signage.
So in other words, here we're dealing with ordinance, regulation, whatever. Is anything required, right? That's what I think that question meant.
Okay, as I recall, with this one, Mike was gonna go find out what was required. And I think that we just need to put a hold on this one, but I just wanna just grab something for a minute here. Okay. I think what we'll do is just wait for Mike to get back with us on that. I didn't have enough time to look back to see what he said in the past, but it looks like Mike has said that he wanted to look into it a little bit more in terms of what the city would require. And I think that we just need to hold on this one and move to the next meeting, okay?
Fine with me.
All right. Okay, number 4. How CCAC can report cemetery landscape issues directly to the DPW, a kind of internal cemetery click and fix. There was a reason Chris wanted this, and I think click fix wasn't the best way for us to track cemetery issues. Is that right, Chris?
I'm wondering if Chris signed out and signed in again to try and get her volume better. Can you hear me, Sandy?
She texted me.
There you go.
Unable to join. Are you having any problems?
Can you hear me, Sandy?
I can hear you. Yes. I'm
Okay, no,
sorry.
no, I just want to make sure you could still hear me.
Yes, good.
Okay.
Okay.
I think Augie has a hybrid car.
What is, was it Bruce or Brian? What was the IT man's name?
Brian Hamilton.
Brian,
Yes.
do you see anybody in a waiting room like Chris?
Nope. I have the attendees list open for just in case that's where Chris ends up when she comes back. And it currently has 0 people on it.
We're still a quorum, so we can put a hold on this and continue if you'd like. I mean.
Yep. Okay. We won't be able, I don't know. Let me just see 1 second here. Okay.
I'll put in the minutes that we put on a hold it until she gets back to the meeting.
Okay. Let's, that was one of her items
Okay.
and that was one of her items
Okay.
and skip number 4 for now. And Augie, it looks like you had something on the agenda, plans to work in and with the city's active cemetery.
Yeah, so I just think we focus so much on the closed cemeteries that, there might be things that we could advise on the current open cemeteries.
Okay, good.
So one big thing is always space of where they could find new graves. And one of the things that's hard is if it's a casket burial, there are cemeteries that are, unable to accommodate a new grave. But as they did, I think a couple of months ago or several months ago, I heard it's about Magnolia Cemetery, that they were able to open up for cremated remains. And knowing that the cremation rate has been climbing steadily every year, that might be something to look into to see if there's opportunities in the closed cemeteries, whether it's Beach Brook or Seaside or one of the other cemeteries.
Now, Carol, didn't Mike Hale say that they are expanding Beach Brook? No, not Beach Brook, Seaside. I'm pretty sure it was Seaside. and-
He was talking about it again, but just as Augie said, cremated remains. I have Augie, I think you're absolutely right, but we haven't felt that was part of the cemetery committee's charge, that this was just an administrative thing with the DPW, but do you think we should be involved in it?
Well, I think it opens up opportunities for closed cemeteries.
I guess
And
what I'm saying is the DPW doing this so that we don't need to be involved in it? That's my question. And again, I wish Mike was here, right?
so I don't know if so being in the funeral home in the city,
Yeah,
we don't know what's going on with new graves, except the fact that there's only one cemetery that we could offer families for new graves. So
the question might be,
I think,
yeah. Is there a long-range plan and could we know what it is?
and maybe we can assist if there is open space in the closed cemeteries, that other families who have had burials there might want to be in the same cemetery as their ancestors.
It makes sense to me, and it's a different point of view. I'm glad you're on the committee. Because it's something I certainly hadn't thought about.
Yeah, because I also get questions about other city-owned cemeteries just in general. And I feel like I wish I knew more. I thought it was interesting that we were expanding any, like even Seaside with the, the cremation plots. It's just, I think it's really good to know and just to understand. I don't know, Mike is always open to any kind of suggestions.
So would it be reasonable to maybe consider making a motion to ask Mike if we can be made aware of any long-range plans?
That sounds good.
Yeah,
And
that is good.
Would
All right.
Augie like to speak with, since it's his proposed, would Augie like to be the one to speak with Mike about it?
Yeah, that would be great. So I can follow up with him.
all right, great.
And
Are
then bring that information, Augie, back to the committee, and we could put it back on the agenda when you have the information.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
New perspective, which is great.
Yeah.
Chris,
All right.
I had you down as disappearing while we were going to talk about number 4. I'm officially putting you back in.
I guess my computer didn't like being talked about. It went crazy, so I had to run downstairs. Can you hear me?
Yeah. And you know
And-
what? If your computer ever fails, you can dial in and at least participate,
Okay, good, good.
because we have the phone number on there too. Okay. Do we
You
want to
wanna
go
go back?
back to number 4, which
Yep.
is how CCAC can report cemetery landscape issues? Chris, did you want to review that again? You brought it up last
Excuse me.
time also.
Right. So, because when you're working in the cemeteries, all of us do, you see certain issues that that they're not emergencies, but they're issues that involve the DPW, and so it's not needed to be a click and fix, which is kind of a public declaration of a problem that usually has to be taken care of right away. So in speaking to Mike said we should create a wish list, and the wish list. So any of us who see that there is a problem in one of the cemeteries shoots a note to Rose, and Rose keeps a database. It's going to be called probably the cemetery's wish list, and records, gets your email and puts it into the wish list so the DPW can review what need is that we're speaking about, and then they can build it into their schedule and the season that is necessary to do that particular grant, that particular wish. For example, when I was reviewing Cherry Hill for the scrap grant, I thought that a couple of stones had to be restored, but Rob, the surveyor, said those don't need to be restored. It's just erosion. And so I brought that up to Mike. I said, well, so these stones will be restored, but they're going to tumble if the earth isn't put back and rebuilt to keep the stones in place. He says, put that on the wish list. So that's just the example. And I
Now,
think one of
what's the process we follow again, just to go through the steps, just so that we get that in writing? with
I
Carol?
think I've got it.
I
we-
couldn't really hear everything. If you
we
could tell me
send-
again.
We send just a note to Rose for our wish list, and she's keeping track of it, and then Mike can review and schedule or get back to us about it or whatever. It sounds like it's really straightforward.
and why don't we have in the subject? Can you hear me, Sandy?
Yes, I was just wondering, is it something that the whole committee should know is being submitted? Just so that we don't
Good
step
question.
on each other or,
So
Just
we're
so
not
that
doing
we're
the same
aware.
thing?
I guess we only get to see each other once a month. And so, I think that would really delay maybe some action. I don't
well,
think.
no, not an agenda. Not on the agenda, but an email. Can it come as an email, copying the rest of us?
Oh,
with-
sure.
With
Actually, I think
the first word being,
Subject line?
yeah, I'm wondering if it could be something different than wish list though, but, what do you- I don't know.
Cemetery maintenance.
Yeah,
What's that?
cemetery maintenance.
Okay, cemetery
Yeah.
maintenance.
Got it.
So
A
is
wish list makes me think I have to wait for Christmas or something.
So we'll tell Rose that too.
So, no, well, I have to write a summary of my meeting with Mike. So I'll just tell Rose that we'll call it a wish list, as Mike had said. We'll call, when any of us write to her, in the subject, there'll always be cemetery maintenance. Do we all agree on that?
Yep.
Some cemetery maintenance request.
Request, okay, sounds good. And then she'll just, keep the list and then share it with Mike, and then he'll go through it and see what he can and cannot do. So that's kind of nice for all of us.
It is. Now, the second part of that is, can you copy all of us, whoever puts it in, right?
Right,
Because several of us have asked for different things over time,
Yeah.
and I think they've gotten lost. And can you put us all on it? And maybe down at the bottom of our agenda every month, we just say, pending cemetery maintenance request items. We don't have to
Ooh,
talk
love
about
that.
them. Yeah, we don't have to talk about them. We can, I just don't know how we're going to find out that they're done unless we're reminded. But we've lost all the other ones, Chris.
lost
I-
all the, what have you
I-
lost?
All kinds of requests over the years. A sign for this cemetery, a granite step going down into that. city sign from Oval Field going down into Clark's, blah, blah, blah. We lose them all. I mean, because we bring them up and then they're gone.
Right,
I'd
right.
like to make a motion.
Oh,
Wait,
make a motion.
Yes,
Can we
that
just
if
summarize?
any, go ahead.
No, can we just summarize? Just to summarize, so the,
That would be the motion. Yeah.
okay,
The motion is that if anybody in the committee sees something that needs work from the DPW, we should submit 2 rows with copies to the committee members.
mhm,
Subject line, cemetery maintenance request,
mhm.
a nice simple statement of it. Then that item should appear on the agenda in the following month, listed as cemetery maintenance requests submitted, so we can keep track of them as we go along. That's my motion.
And just, can I just add to that motion that if you can put photos, Mike says it's really helpful if you could add a photo to the request if something, is physical, and use the edit on your photos to point an arrow, because his crew really, you can't just say this needs to be done at First Parish, but really zero them in exactly what it is that is a problem. And then try to also highlight it, if possible, with an arrow, when you're editing the photo before, and then you can submit your request and photo to Rose. Any kind of visual, anchor, a visual anchor to go along with your request, the request from the cemetery.
And
Sorry to-
I would be willing to keep track of those requests so that we can, if at any time the committee asks, oh, what requests have been completed, what have not been completed, I could try to figure out a way to record that. And if it's photos, that's the only thing I might have to do in like a Google Drop or something like that, so that we could always access it or review it at a monthly meeting or quarterly or yearly.
I guess
Yeah.
that's all good, but when there's a motion on the floor, you are either supposed to vote on it or be done with it or whatever before we move on.
Okay,
Okay.
well, we want to
So I
amend
don't know
it.
if that's adding to it.
Yeah, I'd like
Well,
to.
We've gone way past that, but
But wait a second, it's just an additional amendment to the,
yeah, but it's an easy, yeah.
okay, good. So the amendment, the amendment would be, one of the, members of the CCAC will keep track of it for periodic review and
Perfect.
status.
Got it.
And
But
can we say Augie has volunteered, or do we have
I
to?
got that in there too, but that
All
doesn't
right.
have to be part of the motion.
Okay,
Any seconds, any?
Could you read the motion again, Carol?
Sure. Let me find it here. Copy committee, blah, 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 blah. Add to the agenda. There we go. Motion. When cemetery committee members see maintenance needs in the cemetery, they should submit a detailed information to Rose with the subject line cemetery maintenance request, copied to the committee members. And then Sandy had said we should keep track of it, adding it to the agenda each month. But we can change that to Augie would be willing to keep track of it for periodic review.
sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
So now, second.
I
Oh.
second. I second it.
Andy, can we
Anybody
vote?
opposed? I didn't hear a first on it, but I guess it's you, Carol, that firsted.
I vote.
Okay, great.
Raise my hand, it makes it easy.
All right, great. Thank you. And Augie, you okay with this?
Yes, I am.
Oh, yay. All right, we're
Excellent.
all in favor. Nobody's opposed.
All right.
Oh, great. All right, number 4 is done, number 5 is done. 8, update number 6 on the current restoration work for the 2022 CPC grant.
So we received their eligibility form was accepted and with the cemetery committee is now applying for a 3-year grant from the Community Preservation Act grant. The grant would cover the restoration of over 250 stones in Bayview and a little over 50 stones in Cove Hill. Mike Hale said that the DPW would help with the restoration work, because again, it's restoration of gravestones and gravesite. Here on Bayview, I've uncovered some granite steps, and that, you know, in the 3-year period, he thinks for sure they'd be able to expose those granite steps and shore them up so that.
What cemetery is that in, Chris?
This is in Bayview, I said. Bayview.
Okay.
Okay now. So,
But
yeah.
wait, just 1 second. Getting back to DPW isn't supposed to touch cemetery headstones. You just mean stairs, right? And things like that.
all I mentioned was the granite pieces that make up the stairs that go from Washington Street to South Kilby.
But
Right.
is that part of the CAC, the Community Preservation Grant, or?
It will be, because again, they ask for, you know, community involvement. Can you hear me, Carol?
Now I can, yes.
Community
Sorry, I'm
involvement.
having a committee meeting. Sorry, Matt.
Committee involvement, community involvement, you know, with respect to helping, you know, with the restoration
Got
work.
it.
And also because we're going to ask for a certain amount of money, but the work that will be accomplished will be $20,000 to $25,000 more than probably what we're going to ask for. And that $20,000 more will be involved with volunteer help and help from the DPW.
Got it.
So you're relying on the volunteer and the DPW work to comprise the $20,000 to $25,000 amount?
I think, well, I had said on the eligibility form about 20,000. And when I worked it out, because in speaking to Mike, you know, we can, I probably haven't been getting a really, I can get a much better value of understanding how much money is really being put in by contributions from DPW, because I can now ask Rose to, you know, tell me how much it would cost to get the supervisor and the DPW staff member to bring over the 3/4 stone, to bring over the sand, to bring over the loom. All that is part of the grant itself and its contribution by DPW.
And why would CPC isn't a matching grant, though? Why would they need that again?
Because they ask, how, you know, are we providing all the money for this restoration, or are you getting money or help from other organizations or from the community? I think you had written in when you had done one, you know, DAR gave you $100, and, you know, you talked about the contributions that people made when you did, you know, the grant. So it's the same idea. You know, we're itemizing the contributions from DPW, and I assume, you know, there will be some volunteer work as well.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just thinking, I never thought of DPW. I thought that I think of it as being their job anyway, and they're already being paid by like the city.
Well, they're not being paid, they're contributing. See, the CPC is asking, what kind of contribution is the city making? I don't, and so the city itself is making this contribution.
Oh, they did ask that then. Okay, I didn't know that.
They're asking, you know, what other contributions are being made, you know, towards this besides the money that CPC will provide?
Yeah, oh, okay, they didn't say DPW specifically.
No. It's just that that's our biggest supporter. Unless you can get
Yeah.
also, unless you get Bar to send some money our way too.
Yeah, we're in a unique position where we don't have people paying memberships like, all the other places that have the ability to match grants with donations to a church or a museum or a, art gallery. We don't have the benefit of that, but we also, the biggest benefactor we have is DPW, and it is their job. So it is interesting that that I never thought about including that. I didn't include
Well,
that.
if I may, most budgets like the DPWs or the school districts have line items. And I am sure that Mike, amongst his other things like snow clearing and mowing and everything else, has a line item which is when he does stuff for the cemeteries. And I'm assuming that that's what Chris is talking about, simply keeping a record of, to show how much the city is contributing to the cemetery maintenance.
Exactly, exactly. And that's important. It's important for the city to realize that too. I mean, there are a lot of
Maybe
people.
we don't want them to know.
I don't know. I mean, so they're going to be putting in cutting the grass and the everything. I don't know. It just, but I defer to you guys. It just, there's something about it that's kind of different.
I think from my point of view, when I'm thinking about it, it's when it's in relation to the committee and our needs and what we're doing. So in other words, it's besides their regular DPW work, which is mowing, but when like we want a delivery of gravel so we can do work on the weekend, or we need the guys to do something like open up the water.
Oh, yes,
See what I'm
definitely.
saying?
Yeah, okay.
That's a different
All right.
thing.
When you said the line items on their budget and stuff like that, I think that he just has a big block
Yeah.
on that whole thing. So I don't think you could get it, Chris, from like the budget or anything. But sand, gravel, that
You see, Sandy, it's Sandy.
yes. No, don't explain. I'm just saying, it's fine. It's fine. Yep, good. If we're done with that, we can, did you want to have is this you at this point, Chris, reviewing that application with us, or are you going to wait for us to vote on it and maybe review a grant application the next time we have a meeting? What was your thinking?
I think we should wait for 12 because I really don't know what you and Carol are speaking about when you say review. So we should wait for number 12 because it's unclear to me.
It's their new business, Sandy.
Yeah, I'm just trying to update you where we are.
That's fine. I could have sworn that was something we've discussed in the past and was on minutes from like last fall, but that's all right. Maybe we weren't clear on it at that time.
Okay.
Do you have any questions? Does the committee have any questions about the upcoming CPC grant?
I'd love to see a copy.
I think that's what I was trying to say, but Carol, Chris wants to wait for number 12 in order.
Okay. All right.
So that's why I said, is this her telling us about it?
Yes, I'm giving you, the number 6 says update. What's going on right now is just now filling out the application. You know which 2 cemeteries that it's going to target. Because I think you and I had talked about the fact that you were going to target First Parish, you thought, for your DAR. So, and so where it is right now is I'm getting estimates from 2 restorers on what their price would be to restore, as I said, over 200 stones in Bayview.
No, I think Carol got all that. I was just wondering if we'll wait for number 12 on the actual grant, though.
I'm Sandy. That's all it is.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Number 7, update on biolabs
And TRAP.
and TRAP.
Oh, that's me again. Let's see. Rob will be starting the restoration work in June, and that's what he's planning right now. He's just finishing up the CPC 2021 grant of the restoring the stones at his workshop, and then he'll do the one in First Parish. And he plans to start, as I said, restoration of the Friedman stones come June. And DPW will be offered to help him when he needs help.
Okay, and I really want to firmly request with him this time a report of what he completed before final payment. I really need to insist on that because, you know, I didn't get that at all from the DPW payment. And I just really don't think that's right for documentation reasons.
Should we expect that we would see photographs of the finished work and the stones in place?
I asked for before and after, and then the
Perfect, okay.
repairs that were made.
I was I'm listening to the February meeting. I was to send you all, well, Sandy, I had already sent Sandy. Sandy had a couple months ago, but Rob has sent us a copy of the report he now makes. But I'll send it to all of you again. I'll send it to Carol and Augie who have not seen it, and to Sandy again, so you can see what his report is. And the only addition that we asked was to do a before picture as well. So he does now send a complete detailed report.
But as a committee, I wanted it here in the minutes that we won't be signing off for any restorer, whether, no matter what company, because we need to do a better job at tracking everything.
Perfect.
You know,
I'll make that a motion. But maybe
Okay.
that will go with the review of grants, because the review of grants can include when you determine to pay it as well.
well, I was bringing it up on number 7 because there's these two grants are pretty soon in flight, and
Right.
and I just feel like it, you know, me and Chris talking about it probably isn't good enough for the whole committee to also understand what we've discussed and what I've seen, and just so that everybody understands. And do you agree?
I agree, certainly, yes.
Okay, I make, let's make a motion that the committee doesn't make final payment until that checkbox that says that two people from the CAC has approved the stones. And I take responsibility also for rushing it through by you don't have to put this in there.
No.
Um,
Well, may I ask, you're making a motion, so let's make it simple. The committee
Yeah.
will only do final payment after the full committee has reviewed completion report.
yes,
Yes.
Well, we want to check also, but Carol, before that, I have to amend that. First, we have to see the stones and approve of the work, and then the committee, sees the report.
But no, I only need to see the report that says somebody on the committee's seen the stones. I don't need to see the stones.
I didn't
So
say-
my
I didn't-
motion is that the
didn't say-
full committee has to review a completion report before you sign off.
and then the addendum also is that two people from, do
Right.
we want one person from the committee or two people from the committee to visually review the work? Because that's the only step we did last time, was the visual.
I would say 2, Sandy. I'd go for 2.
Okay,
2 members
Great.
need, yep, 2
good.
members need to review actual work. That's my motion then, okay? Anybody want a second or vote?
I'm going to second that because that's like one of my
I
favorites.
agree.
Okay, we got Augie, we got Chris.
Mhm.
All right.
Agreed.
Done.
Wow, this is unanimous tonight.
I'm also I'm doing something a little different in the minutes, just so you know. Big words, motion, so we know when we have a motion, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You rock. All right. Moss.
This is my suggestion. I just thought maybe it's time to start now. Jonathan Apple was running those workshops for the weekend, and maybe this is on you, Sandy. This is me asking you to do this.
Okay. Send the email out now.
Do it. I just, does anybody else feel, I mean, would we love to have them back, my guess?
Yes.
So that's pretty straightforward. There's nobody doesn't want them back. We all want them back, right?
Yeah. Chris, Augie?
Yes.
I agree.
Okay, Sandy?
Okay, yes.
Yay!
All right, let's see. So Sandy will send out the emails.
I wrote that.
Okay. All right. Number 9, update on database entries M through Z.
So that's me again. So where I am now, I'm down to W on Whittemore. So but we're and that's a good thing. I'm in the process of this of the 40 pages from S to W. There are over 600 entries I checked, and 300 of them are new in the sense we've never been in our record. And so I'm right now just entering the new names of that were, that were outstanding in the S through W. So I'm making progress, which is a good
I was
thing.
gonna say, can I write in the minutes? Almost done.
Yes. Well, I still have to do the first parish, but yeah, we're getting there.
No, I understand there's other things that are distracting, like a big grant, it's, I understand.
I remember you and I checked the first, remember there was that list from Sparling of missing. I have to just check that and then I'll be done.
Sounds good.
One thing on that list, because I've been using them, even though they're in whatever condition they're in, because I got an update from Carol, I think last fall, and I got one from Chris on M through Z.
M through S.
Maybe January or something, or December. The only thing that would have been great for me to know is if any of those people I could flag in the database with Revolutionary War or any kind of war. And
They're
if
there. There's a column for that. Are you not seeing it?
There's a column.
It's the column says war. Just so you know, because it should have been there in the copies you got. We may not have complete records, but we certainly have a column for it, and we can definitely, it should have been included.
I'm good with First Parish.
You know what? Oh, and I'm going to throw in here, I asked Vicki and Adam once again if we're ever going to see Lucia's stuff. And Vicki told me it's not even on her 3-month list. And I said, I will be persistent to get, because that's all Lucia's information.
Oh.
What? You didn't know the war column was there?
No, I didn't. I thought it was just in First Parish.
No, it's everybody that we have information on.
Oh, but there's a lot of people missing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, there's some people missing I needed to find, which is it would be great to have.
Yep, I would love that too.
I'm working on. Yeah. All right. I hate to bother you with having you look up anything that I can't find.
Oh, anytime. It takes me a second.
Okay,
Glad to do it.
Okay. Good. All right.
Oh, it looks like number 10 is the same question about reviewing grants. It was already there. So it doesn't need to be in new business, Sandy.
Oh, good. Okay, number 10, Chris requests a review of item 12 from February. The committee agreed that before grants are submitted, they should be reviewed by the entire committee. We want to add record-keeping information about which stones have or will be worked on in their status.
So we use the word agreed. Chris says she listened to the whole tape. We didn't have a motion. So what we need here, if we're already in agreement, that the full committee should be able to see a grant before any grant submitted in our name. I mean, that seems pretty straightforward.
But we need a discussion right now because I don't know about you two, but I usually am submitting the grant the night or the day of. So I don't see how, you certainly, the eligibility form, for CPC, I can put that on the Google Docs. You can, but I know personally about me, I don't know about you and Carol, Sandy, and Augie, but I can't say to you that I will be able to get the grant completed. Well, anyway, this grant is going to be submitted before our next meeting. So there's just no way that I could get a grant written and ready for you to look at before I have to submit it. I did that to me. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. I know I can't do that. But the second part, I agree with, in that we should have a list of all the people that are being restored, be it veterans, be it civilians. So there's two different things going here. And Sandy has already started an Excel file on all the restorations that have been accomplished since 2021, so that there is no confusion. People know exactly who's been restored. So I'm in agreement with that. I'm not in agreement with saying that the community can review. It's like me, Carol, saying to you, before you go and give a talk, we have to hear your talk, and tell us about it to make sure we agree with it, since you're representing, the cemetery group.
No, I don't think it's the same thing, and you could describe it more, except that if it's on behalf of the committee and our name is written as a committee, and we're going to get money, and we're asking for money and funds, we were just thinking it would be best to review it with us, even, by review.
What do you mean by, see, if you meant to see the grant that's going to be submitted, I can't personally do that. If you have questions to ask, that's fine, but I can't. I mean, when you submitted your SHRAB grant, you had the whole committee review before you submitted it, Sandy?
Oh, I don't know. It was like 8 years ago. Do you
I
want
was
me to
gonna
go
say,
back
we've
and look
been
at the meeting
pretty-
minutes?
This is just a move from being pretty informal about things to acknowledging that we're talking about some pretty big hunks of money here.
I know.
Um,
It sounds like she doesn't have time, Carol.
I know, I understand that, but that's because Chris may be thinking we need a whole month's lead time, but I don't think we necessarily need to meet in a committee to at least look over the grant and just see if there's any problems in it. One more set of eyes, I guess, is what I'm thinking. And Chris, you've done a great job getting grants. I mean, that money is just fabulous. I can't believe what's getting done. That's great. And I understand what you mean, but we're going to be slightly bureaucratic, because it probably, if it's about money and it's about work being done, it probably should be read by at least one other person before it gets submitted.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I probably would vote for it. I mean, I try to be as open as I can when I'm submitting grants, but it's like you said, Carol, a while back. Once the committee gives you permission to do something, they're telling you that they have faith in what you're doing. I think that was what you said. And I'm always open to any questions you all have, but I can't say to you that I can give you the grant, just, because
Here's a question, Chris, maybe this would be sufficient, maybe, if you don't mind me suggesting, Sandy. What would make a lot of sense to me is to be informal enough that we can make this work, because this is a bunch of volunteers and we're finding time to work when we can. But what if, before any of us, as you're working on a grant, what you submit to us is a description of the grant and what it's going to contain. So for example, you send a committee meeting, you certainly know a month ahead of time. A committee meeting, I found this great grant, I want to write it. Here's what I'm going to ask for. Money for restoration at Cherry Hill, 250 stones or Bayview, whatever the numbers are. We haven't even got that until you come to committee. You see what I'm saying?
Well, no.
So a simple description of what you expect to put into the grant that keeps the committee aware of it so that we know what's happening. And I don't think it necessarily has to be the entire finished grant, which if you're writing it to deadline, good luck, keep going. I don't want to interrupt. Does that make any sense, Sandy, Augie?
I think in order, those numbers, this is when it occurred to me also and reminded me when it's hard to get all those numbers right on how much each stone costs or each,
Right.
I mean, there's either, in the details might not necessarily be right because they're being spoken
Mhm.
to us during a meeting, and sometimes there's a lot of noise or we can't hear things. There's got to be another way just to understand. And I'm looking for what I'm looking for right now is there's a preliminary review that CPC does
Oh,
that gets you through, and that was done quite a while ago, that has all the details in it, and that could be sent.
but maybe we should consider that the committee needs a preliminary review, and then we say, off you go. But at
Well,
least
yeah,
we
I
know what's
mean,
happening.
Yeah, because this is very, very detailed, and also the thing is, wait a minute. I'm gonna send this to the committee because everything you need to know about it is in mostly these preliminary. We don't need all the bells and details and the whistles. Your
So-
idea, Chris, was to send out that preliminary one, which she
Yeah.
gave me access to. So that's why I know a lot about it.
But that
Right.
makes a lot of sense. That's maybe all we need as a committee to feel comfortable that we have some kind of a handle on what's happening.
Right. When I can do that, because in order for the committee to be allowed to apply for this grant, I had to fill out an eligibility application, and then and so I'll send that to all of you tonight, and that should give you a really good handle on what this grant's about.
Yeah. So can
Okay,
we?
I make a motion.
I make
Oh,
the
you do it. Go ahead.
motion. Okay. Maybe, you can frame it better, Carol.
No, go ahead.
But it's, we want, the committee wants a summary of what is entailed in a grant. Like even just, this isn't just, let me, I'm not ready to put it in a sentence right yet.
I'm doing
But
it.
I would like, let me just, and then you can put it in words. I would like whoever's going for a grant, a plaque, like the one that was in First Parish and all that whole thing, whether it's a plaque, a grant, whatever. And that's some sort of, we put it on the agenda, okay, and the person that's doing all this work, all the footwork, whether it's National Register, they be given some time during the meeting to show us and to outline what's in it, what's going in it, just an overview. It doesn't even have to be really that hugely detailed. It could be like these two cemeteries, this much money. Look at how much we have to get from, look at how much the DPW contributes. Oh, wow, didn't even think of that. Or look at how much this restorer uses from our supplies, but these other restorers don't use any of our supply. Just some extra details, just so that we know.
Okay, let me see if I can frame this while I'm listening to you, Sandy. So when a member is planning to apply for a grant for restoration or a plaque or whatever,
Or a National Historic
okay, or,
designation.
yep, or National Historic designation. And you catch me if I don't do what you want. The member should submit a preliminary outline or a presentation giving the committee an overview as to commitments, because I think that's one of our questions. What are we being committed to? Vendors and basics. Simple as
Yeah.
that. What do you think?
What was that for, what was the word before basics, Carol?
Overview as to commitments, and I put vendors because I think we like to know who you might be committing us to contractually work with,
Sure,
and
sure.
basics.
Okay,
So,
sounds-
but it's meant as a preliminary outline presentation, so you don't have to have the whole thing done. And when you're working against deadline, nobody's going to bother you because we already know what you're doing.
Yeah,
sure.
and Chris, after that, you know, and do you guys also agree that you're given some time to maybe show it in a, you know, we let you share the screen for 3 minutes.
How about updates are welcome?
Okay, but Chris, do you also agree that you're given 3 minutes, you put on the agenda item to just present that to us, and then after that, at each ensuing meeting, you just do the updates like you're doing now?
Okay, no, that sounds, that's, for me, that's great. You know, I mean, that would work for me, you know, when I'm writing a grant. As I said, I don't know about you and Carol, you know, or Augie, but for me, I know it's always to the last moment, but that
No,
would
we
work.
didn't, yeah, we didn't mean that big gigantic one you do at the
No,
end.
no.
Please
So
don't.
that's our motion then, written out that way.
Will you say it again now that
Sure, I'd
I've
be glad to.
scrambled the eggs?
When a member is planning to apply for a grant for restoration or a plaque or a National Historic designation or whatever, that member should submit a preliminary outline presentation. I put that like a slash. Giving us an overview, giving the committee an overview as to the commitments, vendors, and basics, and updates are welcome. Even expected.
Sounds good.
How's that sound?
Yep.
Okay.
Want to second it, Augie?
I second it.
There we go.
That-
Still in the car.
My hand goes up.
All in favor, we're all in favor. Okay,
And that
good.
takes care of what was there before. So, but now we have a real motion and it'll be in the minutes.
Good. Thank you so much.
And I think it's responsive to the truth is deadlines, you know. Woo!
Oh, thanks so much, you guys.
Good job, Sandy. Yeah.
You know, you did have a second part, which was also a good part to it about, you know, having a list, you know, of keeping a record keeping of information about stones that have and will be worked on. Sandy, do you wanna
But
share-
okay, can I throw in here?
Sure.
If we get this database done,
Yep.
then what you do is you keep that information everything's in one database.
Right.
You don't have 4 separate Excel things going on. And all you do, those of you that know Excel, know that we can have a form that will just show us the veterans, or a form that will just show us the restoration, but it's all in this one database. So we don't say, wait a minute, is that the database Sandy's keeping? Or is that the database Augie's keeping? There's just one database. Do you see what I'm saying?
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
So we've been keeping 2 Excel spreadsheets, Carol,
Yep.
and already they're out of sync.
Yep, and see, that's why I say one.
I knew you would like that.
This is why Kevin has me housed here in Oregon, because I do this.
Okay. So I'm wondering, maybe when you get back, even if it's a workshop, you know, if we had like an
Yep,
ad
we can
hoc,
workshop it.
yeah, over at the Veterans Center or something with PCs in front of us or whatever.
Yes.
Because I personally want to do a better job of keeping track of all the stones that are worked on
Yep.
Sundays, you know?
And I think this would be so good if we could just do it, and then you don't lose things. You
Yeah.
don't, you know, like say, you know, Augie kept the database, but you know, Augie dropped off the committee. We don't know where it is. I mean, you know, because that's what happens.
So how do we, and we'll talk about it that time. We'll talk about it at that time during the workshop. We'll schedule one. When are you coming back?
26th,
Of
end of the
April-
month. Just make it the end of the month. It's easy.
Oh,
of
good.
April.
Oh, good. All right. And we'll talk about all the details then.
Yep.
That'd be wonderful. Okay.
Yep.
Great,
All
great.
right.
That's a good idea.
All right. Chris, thanks for chopping that number 10 in half there. Now, is that all everybody has on number 10?
I think so.
All right, I have at least one new thing on new business. We have the stone that was at the Garlands has been returned.
Yeah, woo! Yay,
I
Cindy!
know. No, we knew where it was. We
Well,
all
we knew,
knew.
yes, but that was
but-
awkward.
I I didn't let them know that I knew they
Well,
had it because they were just so gracious.
Yes, and
Now-
we know this is being recorded, so we certainly don't want to say anything about anybody that isn't pleasant.
Oh my God, they were. I got.
No, they're
I won't-
lovely. And I think at the same time that Charles Olson took the stones over to the museum, the cemetery was horribly neglected, and people were concerned.
I just wanted to give a little backstory on it.
Yeah.
Joe was in the cemetery. Sticks and stones were being thrown at all the headstones. And there sat this little girl, stone, 7 months old. Okay. Her name was Elizabeth Plummer, 7 months old, all broken by those kids. So they took it home and it's well preserved. And they would like to make a donation to help restore it.
Isn't that gracious?
I
Oh
can't,
my
believe it,
goodness.
honestly. Okay, number 2.
Do
Who
we
will
need
they
to
write?
vote to say thank you? Yes, please.
Well, I'm going to be sending a thank you note as soon as we do the
Nice.
second part of this.
Okay, go ahead.
They want to know who to write a check to.
Well, I would tell you that you can write it to the cemetery committee, and I bet you cemetery advisory committee of Gloucester, and I bet you John can cash it. But I would be glad to call John tomorrow
Okay.
morning and ask him.
Okay, because when I called, I got sent over to the mayor's office,
Oh,
then got sent over to the DPW. And then Vicky said Mike would be at the meeting tonight and would clear it up. But if you could just,
you know what, Sandy, I'll take care of it.
please, because
I'll just do it.
thanks so much. And I'm
You know,
picturing the check is written out to the city of Gloucester DPW and with a note in the little note at the bottom.
Yeah, that'll
the
work fine.
Cemetery Advisory Committee. But
So all we have
that's-
to do is
that's
bring it
what's
to,
that's what's going back in my memory like years ago, but I
but
really
all we
need
have to
that.
do is take it to John and tell him what it is, and it'll be all set.
Okay, they want to know who to write it to and how to get it in the queue so that it gets restored.
Got it.
And right
it's
now-
fabulous.
Full disclosure, it's sitting in front of my fish tank in the living room.
May I throw in here something a little, so don't forget that Carol Steele gave us $500 to, as the foster parents for Little Langsford. And there's at least 2 broken stones up there, and I thought we should use Carol Steele's money every year for a couple of stones at Langsford, because that's what they're paying for. And so maybe that could be a little restoration project with the 2 stones from Langsford and the little Plummer stone.
And what I was wondering, and what would be really cool, is that we kind of advertise this in a little article in the paper that people can donate to have
Yes,
stones, because Joe Garland, that's an ancestor of his.
yeah, you know,
Plummer.
and I think it'd be a little nice thank you to Carol Steele if we included them in that same thing.
Yeah, and then this is where your money went.
Yeah,
And maybe it might encourage other kind of.
so when I get home, how about I follow up and identify those 2 stone in Langsford, and we put it together in a little package, and I'll
Okay.
write it up.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
okay.
And I'll have the committee review it.
Can I say something about this?
Please,
Yeah.
Augie.
So when in the past you've had stones restored and you've had individuals contribute to their restoration, do you send them a thank you note or a before and after photo of the stones? Is there follow-up? I know we're talking about putting it in the paper, but do you follow up with the generosity of everybody.
I don't think it's been that way, but I think it's a lovely idea, and I think you just summarized it beautifully. That's what should happen. Don't you
I-
think, Sandy?
Yeah, I do. I don't recall ever really, the only thank you note that we've sent so far has been to the DAR for donating money to us, which Carol, I think they've done twice.
Yeah,
We haven't had any donations to repair stones. This would be the first. And Carol Steele, Carol Steele and the Garlands would be the first, Augie.
I think it's a great idea, Augie. That's exactly what should happen. We should do a simple little thank you note with a before and after, and this is where your money went. Yeah.
So as far as the two organizations that have donated money to us, it's gone into general restoration. But as far as I know, Elizabeth Plummer is the first designated, I want it to go to repair her stone. And that's the first time that I've been able to identify a person. I don't know if the steel stones were.
The Carol Steele, it's the Langsford Cemetery.
Yeah, just, okay.
Yep.
And
Carol,
we have two there.
Carol, do you have to do a proposal, for the Carol Steele? I mean, that's what you said was really well said, to make a point that her money, her yearly donation will always go to repair. Do we need a proposal for that, Sandy?
You know what? I think that's good. I'll do it next. I'll have it written up in time for next month's meeting. Okay.
And there's actually a third stone that I know of in Langsford. There's actually 3 now.
I just did an arbitrary $250. We could do 2 stones, and then they're going to give us that money every year. So
Great, it's great.
I'll write that up before our next meeting.
Good. Anybody else have anything to add to the agenda? I thought there might have been another.
I
Not
do.
me.
Carol,
Nope.
Chris?
Yes, Augie, I should ask you because I've got 3 things. Augie, do you have anything?
I do not have anything.
Just because I've met with Mike, I want us all to know as a committee that the metal work, he's working on the Clark's archway, and he'll be talking to J&R Welding sometime very soon about getting on with that arch structure for the Clark. So that's in the works and moving forward. The other thing is, in speaking with him, as we were talking about this grant coming up, any time that we as a committee submit an application, whether it's for a grant or for, historic place, he would like us to send that information to Rose, just general information that this grant is being submitted, the title, or this particular historical place application is being submitted. And so the submission he'd like to be aware of, and he'd also, of course, want to be aware of the fact if we're awarded, historic place, or if a grant is awarded, because this allows, because people will come up to him and say, oh, I hear that the cemetery committee is applying for something, and he would like to be in the know as well. So he's requesting that we do that as we go forward.
He gets the minutes from all our meetings, so if we follow the procedure we set in motion, he'll get that information.
But he wants it to be sent to Rose, because Rose keeps a database. So he wants.
Yeah. It's almost like what we even discussed as a committee. It all occurred to us all at once, Chris, that I think that that's a really good idea, even for us and him, and Rose.
Mhm.
Yep.
He gave us really great remarks on the Facebook page, the DPW Facebook page, by the way.
Did he? Because I always compliment him whenever I get a chance too.
Yeah, it just occurred to me that you guys might not have Facebook, but.
One last item, the water is going to be turned on, actually, I'm sorry, I have 2 more. Water is going to be turned on in the middle of April, so, in the first parish. And I brought up to the fact that the water was unclean, and he was surprised at that. I said they didn't seem to be able to flush it out, because he said the water on that particular faucet is the same water that the houses in the surrounding area of the oval receive. And so he said, we haven't had any complaints about rust or dirty water. So he said, just run the water for at least 20 or 30 minutes and see if that helps. Sandy, I know you and Kathy remarked about the water. So that's what we have to go with. And I guess if it doesn't clean up after a 20-minute run, we need to get back to him.
Okay.
And then the last thing is, I would like to spend, we have a little under $600 in our budget at the DPW, the cemetery budget. I do need to buy some pea stone for the Fannons. I need to get some sand for the Fannons. And so I think we might be able to, I know it's going to cost us money to guide the pea stone, and we also need to buy some sprayers because there's going to be a lot of cleaning, for the D2, and all of our sprayers have become defunct. So
I'll donate one. I have one sitting outside my barn.
Huh?
I have one. I'll donate it.
Okay, well, so I just want you to be aware of that, and then come July, and I need to get this in now because unfortunately they hit Rose very early in May and almost shut off her ability to use any money in our budget. So it's okay with you all that we spend the money, on those items.
Yeah, will you get the smaller sprayers that are easier to use and they don't break as much?
This is the red ones. I don't know. I'm deferring to
Yes,
this is
yes.
the red. Yes.
Yeah, those
yes.
don't break as bad, so that would be wonderful. The other big ones are just, people step on them.
Okay. So because we'd like to spend down that money, is there, and so if there's anything, the restorers themselves who are coming to the Shrab, they do request certain things. And so I just thought we'd spend the money on that, and
At the end of the fiscal year, anything that's not spent disappears. So
Right.
we should be aware of that, and we would be better off spending it than having it disappear.
Right, and so that you all are aware too, Mike said that they'll be able to dump the pea stone, the 3/4 gravel, the sand, where in First Parish, and then they'll also hopefully be able to dump in Cherry Hill, as well as maybe if we're lucky into Bayview. So that's where the money goes towards those purchases. Although the 3/4 stone and the sand may come as a gift from DPW.
3/4
Sounds
stone,
good.
we've never had to pay for that one though.
That's
We've never
correct.
had to, yeah.
And we paid for the sand because we used to buy it in bags, but now everyone, the Fannons, and Rob and Mike said, you just can buy sand, and the Fannons are real happy with that. The Mason.
They're okay. They're okay with it not being place sand because they were adamant about that in the past.
They're fine with twice.
Whoops, sorry, whoops, didn't hear you.
No, I've gone over that with them twice. They just want masonry sand, just a load of it dumped for them.
Okay, in the past, they said there was salt mixed in with the sand, but maybe that was a mistake one year because of the
Yeah.
winter. Good,
Yeah, okay.
okay.
Any questions on those items?
No, that seems pretty straightforward.
Excellent. Thank you for having that meeting, Chris.
Yeah.
I used to miss Carol and Bev having those with Mike. They used to send out, get all kinds of stuff covered.
And I do think, as we think about that too, when we put this maintenance, because Mike, we did bring up the thing about the shrubs in First Parish. So remember how he was going to take out the brush, the cherries and the roses. So that can be applied to this cemetery maintenance request as well. And First Parish. Remember when they have time, they were going to come in there and just uproot all those invasive plants.
Okay. And Chris, would you be able to just put a little summary report together on the grants that are coming this year and the one you're going to, just a quick email to all of us? How much, where they were for, which cemeteries, I've lost track of some of those grants, the biolab, Bray, no, not Bray, Bayview, no, Bray.
The community ones, we had the community one, then you got the one from,
No,
Deep-
don't tell me now. If you could just, maybe you already have them in some sort of a little file, you could just send them to all of us.
Sure, sure.
The amount, when, the amount, who is doing the work, which cemetery, just some details, just to close out almost the year here, because it's been a really good year for the grants you've gotten.
Okay, good, we'll do that.
It'll really show. And then let's send that to Rose too.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, that will bring that up too.
Okay, I got it in the minutes.
All right, if there's nothing else, we could make a motion.
I move to end the meeting.
I second it.
All in favor. Great meeting, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye,
Likewise.
guys.
Take care. Have a good
Thanks,
week.
Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
You too.